Welcome to Cinema Gulp. I'm John.
And I'm Ben, and this is our Gulp review of Those Who Wish Me Dead.
Yeah. What?
We got a chance to see another new movie, Those Who Wish We Are Dead, or whatever the hell this is called. I was kind of excited to see this movie because it seemed like it had the pedigree for something to be really good. Something, I wish I could see in the theater, but had to watch it at home on TV. And that's the right place to watch this movie, I would say. It did not feel like a big enough experience to be a theatrical movie anyway. It was serviceable action thriller, but I found it to be underwhelming.
I don't know if it felt like a TV movie as much as a lot of people are talking about these movies nowadays, and they have like a term, but that there's a shortage of them. And it's kind of those mid-range movies where you have your blockbusters and then you have your tiny little indie movies. And then somewhere in the middle is those movies that they don't make that much anymore, that have kind of a modest budget. This is one of those movies. And it's a little ambitious with like having this forest fire setting with a movie that clearly didn't have the budget to pull it off. So it's sort of in the background and not really that featured. So I have a lot of problems with this movie, but overall, I love the simplicity of it as well. And I guess it's based on a book, which just seems too simple to be based on a book. But
yeah, I agree. It's almost too. That's where I felt it was a little TV for me. It just felt a little too simple. I felt like the setups are really rushed in the movie, as you were kind of pointing out. The beginning of the movie, the setup of the bad guys felt rushed. The setup of all of our lead characters was a bit rushed. The relationships between the father and son, the Angelina Jolie, I guess, and John Barenthal, like it was all just coming together so quick and kind of rushed and forced. In my opinion, it really seemed like there was a lot of moments of kind of movie cliche, specific or your usual movie beats in this movie, and that was kind of sad to see because this writer director usually does something pretty, to me, I feel like kind of original, or at least if he's working within the confines of a typical storytelling, he surprises you. There's moments where you don't expect. And there was nothing about this movie that I didn't see coming or expect.
Well, I feel the opposite from you when it comes to the setup. I almost think there was too much because it really is halfway through the second act before the story really kicks into gear. I think you have a lot like with the father and son on the road. I mean, obviously it's all kind of edited. Everything's happening parallel, but like you have your setup with John Barenthal, you have your setup with his wife, who he is. Quick little Angelina Jolie. I'm going to say this right off the bat. She's clearly the protagonist. She's clearly the movie star of the movie, but she does not have the most screen time in this movie. She's probably third for screen time. The villains have more screen time, and I want to say John Barenthal has more screen time. She is popped in there and we're following her story more so. But if you take her completely out of this movie, you could probably still have something happening with, John Barenthal having to do what he's doing with the villains and stuff like that. But anyway, that being said, I liked the setup of the father-son because it brings up one of the most horrific scenes in the movie, which is, a pretty brutal moment.
It was rushed in its initial scenes. Like there was exposition in those first couple scenes. It just felt so like forced to tell us who these people are and what their relationships are.
I agree.
It didn't come together in a natural bit of dialogue or acting, really. I feel like a lot of I love most of the actors in this movie, but this definitely wasn't their most compelling roles, I would say. They felt very movie character and not realistic at all, like not any of them. I think the kid kind of had some of the best dramatic beats in the whole movie, I would say.
I like
some of the other performers weren't working for me. They felt like, they should probably be in Howie Long's Firestorm.
Won't be seeing them again.
There was just a layer of cheese. Like it's not a cheesy movie. It's taken very serious, but that's the problem. It's such a serious story it's telling that it didn't feel serious for me. There was very little tension. It just felt like I was watching like a rote action thriller that just wasn't really hitting, especially the way that I expect this writer director to usually do. He's very visceral, in my opinion. His films have these moments of violence that come out of nowhere that really grab you and gut punch you because they're characters you've come to care about and love usually. And there's some of that in this movie, as you're pointing out, a certain scene midpoint of the movie or 30 minutes or so into the movie that is kind of that gut punch, but you also knew that was where it was going as well. It wasn't
Yes.
out of nowhere like he can
No.
usually bring to the table. So that's where I found it underwhelming. It's more about the team behind this movie that I know what they could do at times, and I didn't quite get it in this movie.
With Angelina Jolie, to me, she's like Tarantino, where anytime she's doing something, I'm always interested. And especially when she's doing something modern where she's just playing a normal person and not some melancholy chain smoker from the 60s or whatever. So like seeing her as a normal person and get to do little bits of corny action and stuff and giving her character some levity. Her like introduction was fun. Like, okay, she's kind of weird and quirky and like, yeah, it was a little cheesy, but I liked that. I'm like, okay, so I'm okay to follow her because she's not just a fucking droll, boring, emotionless person. And I mean, to be honest, when's the last time we saw Angelina Jolie where she wasn't just kissing her brother on the red carpet?
Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. Just shake your head and go, go, go. You're doing a dance called the no, no, no.
I just didn't believe her at all. Like that.
Yeah, she teetered.
She's too frail, man. She's not believable as an action hero anymore. Like, I don't know that I ever fully believed it. It was definitely that, okay, you're telling me she's this strong and tough, so I'll take it. But this movie, she needed to sell it a bit more. It needed that bit of realism. She's not just playing I don't know,
Lara
whatever her
Croft.
previous action. Yeah, the comic booky more kind of thing. This needed to be a real person who could stand her own against, whoever she's up against. And I don't know, I just wasn't buying it. Her looks as well, like she needs to, like, not that there's Charlize Theron is an example of somebody who can make herself look terrible, but also still be beautiful in an action role and make it still believable, whether she's rough and tough or sexy as hell, but still believable in the action role. And I don't know, Angelina Jolie needed to do something with her looks maybe, and her demeanor. She still kind of felt like, she's better than everybody, Angelina Jolie or something. I don't know.
One positive for me on the movie is that it's kind of sold as like Angelina Jolie and her Die Hard scenario in a forest on fire against some baddies. And it's not that movie. No, it's not. And thankfully it's not that movie. She's pretty removed from all of the story until the last scene. Like she's on another thing. She's with the boy doing the thing. This is all in the trailer. Like, and she's really not. I mean, what is her action scene is she runs and then she jumps and grabs a rope. Like so I didn't really find it that unbelievable because she wasn't really that much of an action hero.
Late in the film when she's having to hold.
Yeah, late in the film. Yeah, but they covered it up with a lot of dark and a lot of quick cuts and stuff. And I wasn't a fan of the editing of this movie, and I know that Taylor Sheridan brought over his new editor from the show Yellowstone. It's not someone that's directed other movies of his, and it kind of showed.
I kind of wanted to question, like, I knew that he had done that show, and I kind of wanted to question, is this basically just the crew of that show? And that's why it, to me, has a bit of a TV feel to it.
I think you're right. I think you're onto something, because I think the guy's name is Ben Richardson. That's the cinematographer of Wind River and carried over to this. I do like the cinematography in this quite a bit when it's not the CGI forest fire.
When it's not dealing with the
There's
fire.
some beautiful shots in this, though. Like,
sure.
Really beautiful shots. And there is a scene that when I was watching it, I was thinking of you right off the bat. I was thinking John's going to be like, this is the dumbest shit ever. And it's the lightning stuff.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I did some research, and lightning hitting fire towers is fairly common, and it knocks out the power. But I don't think that's the part you found as cheesy.
No. It was the second kid
part.
and her having to outrun the lightning in the field, which to me, it's like, why wouldn't you just stay? Why wouldn't you just stay by the tree line and lay down there where it's going to hit the tree and not you, and you would lay? Because honestly, the storm passed over that section from the film standpoint. The storm passes over that section in a couple minutes. Just wait it out. Why do you need to do this action hero moment of running across the field and
Yeah.
you switch and you get up and I get up. It was just, yeah, it was dumb. I think any movie
That scene made me laugh out loud.
that was another issue I have with like the pacing of this movie is that it is jumping around between multiple stories, like characters that are in different places doing different things at the same time.
Yeah.
And it often diffused the tension by leaving, one storyline, whatever, maybe not too quickly, but whenever it left one storyline and went to the other one, it was just constantly diffusing tension if there was any. The movie really didn't hold a lot of tension for me. I'd say only the stuff dealing with putting the pregnant wife in danger,
Yes.
and seeing her fight back and stuff.
That was a gnarly scene.
That was the most tension I got out of this movie, but that's
100%.
That's 1/3 of the kind of storylines that are going on, and maybe even the smallest story thread of all the main story threads. So the other two, Angelina and John Barenthal and the villains just weren't working for me, really.
Aidan Gillen and Nicholas Hoult are pretty much the two villains. We don't know. I like the fact that we never find out what they're actually after or what the situation is. But it's funny, you get this little Tyler Perry cameo where you're like, oh, Tyler Perry is clearly like he's either like a politician or a mob boss or something. They never explain all that stuff.
I like those actors. Again, it's back to like, I like everyone in this movie in terms of them typically as actors and stuff and what they can bring to roles, especially both those guys playing the villains, but they were dumb. I just found them to be stupid. I know that the main villain guy does bring up the fact that they were undermanned, like they should have been able to handle this differently. It wasn't their choice.
2 teams. Yeah.
It wasn't their choice to handle it the way they are, but I still think they made some pretty dumb choices, and it's more like just the way the screenplay forces them to.
There's people making choices and then there's people reacting in this movie. That's why I say, like, to me, it's almost the two villains movie. Like, it's almost their movie. You're following them from the beginning to the end, and you know more about what they have to do. And then John Barenthal's character is reacting. Like, he's the one who's kind of reacting to stuff. I guess you can call him a second lead. Medina Senghor is the one who plays John Barenthal's wife. She was fucking great. Like, she had some really great moments, like to do her thing and act terrified. And yeah, those were my favorite scenes. There's 2 scenes with her that were really good.
Yeah,
like a crowd pleaser, and one was scary as shit.
Any movie where your characters, your human characters, are outrunning Mother Nature, it's just it knocks it down on the believability scale.
Are you saying this movie's like The Happening, John?
Maybe people are setting off the plants?
What Roland Emmerich movie or whatever, like those ones are meant to be silly and cheesy, or whether it's Jurassic Park and they're outrunning a volcano or whatever dumb shit.
No, you're talking about
running that stuff.
Those Who Wish Me Dead, The Day After Tomorrow.
Towards the end, when they're being able to outrun the fire a bit, the whole running from the lightning, those were just 2 moments that almost made me laugh out loud because it was just stupid and ruins the believability of the movie.
You almost didn't need the fire in this movie. You almost didn't at all. Like,
she could have been sitting in her tower with no fire going on, and still like all the same stuff could have kind of taken place.
It's a total afterthought until pretty much the very end.
And that's because they couldn't afford to realistically display fire for even 1 freaking second in this movie about firefighters. Even one of the great scenes of the film involving the pregnant woman, where there's like some trickaroo going on with,
I know what you're talking
fire.
About.
It's a CGI fire even in that freaking scene.
Well, they're not going to have that close to the
I know, but it just stands out. Come on, in a movie like this, CGI should not stand out for even a second, because it's supposed to be, character driven, realistic filmmaking, and it wasn't.
I was really worried about that, because I was enjoying this movie when it first started very much. I was enjoying the characters, I was enjoying the scenery, I was enjoying the villains, and like, oh shit, they're kind of scary. Who knows what they're gonna do? Who knows who they're gonna kill? And they kill, a significant amount of. There's one brutal innocent that gets killed in this movie. That's
fuck. That's all
That might
part
be
of
the
that.
come out of nowhere moment, even though you kind of knew it was going to happen, but
Yeah.
it's a holy shit moment.
It's a holy shit moment, and I agree with you 100%. That's the film's one moment that I was hoping for, but it also was, you saw it coming. It wasn't completely out of nowhere the way he's been able to pull off 2 or 3 times in films previously. Tyler Sheridan, I only have one other film, Wind River, and it's not really an action film per se. It's got elements of action, so I can't really say I know how good he is at shooting action, but he bungled the geography of almost every firefight. I felt like in this movie, the carjacking kind of moment or whatever, the roadside thing, that was handled pretty well.
I
But
liked
a
it.
lot of the other firefights, the gunfights, the geography was not very clear.
I'm not pinning the writing of this movie on him because he was one of 3 writers. They were adapting it from a book. So like, I'm not going to hold this against him as far as writing goes. Maybe there just wasn't much there. Maybe this was a story he just really wanted to tell, because we know how good of a writer he is.
It seems like his kind of story. I totally
Yeah.
felt like when I heard about it, I'm like, oh, Tyler Sheridan, and this is the story they're telling.
This is
Sounds
right up his
perfect.
fucking alley, dude. Totally.
Yeah.
And he even has little bit actors that were in like Wind River in this too. Like some of the guys that played the evil security guys at the end were the
Yeah, it was
fire
one of the
crew.
smoke jumper guys, right?
Yeah.
I noticed that. I was like,
Yeah.
cool.
Like Wind River's kind of like a small masterpiece. Like it's really a special movie with a lot to say and great performances and amazing to look at. Like it's a fantastic movie that kind of creeped. It was my second or third favorite of 2017, then ultimately became my favorite, obviously after we did our favorites of where it wasn't the favorite, but it is now. But yeah, I don't know. There was definitely a budget problem with this movie, John. Like there had to have been. Like there just had to have been. I bet you the book has scenes with the smoke jumpers doing stuff. I don't know that, but I feel like that's just an element completely left out of this movie.
I hope it's not because of, they needed to pay Angelina some hefty salary and they couldn't spend money on the film. That would be a shame.
My bitch better have my money.
Like it didn't need Angelina Jolie. I don't know. I guess if some people are looking at this movie as like, oh, Angelina in an action movie or Angelina in a setting that, we wouldn't expect to see her in. So that is an interest for them. That wasn't a draw for me at all. It was Taylor Sheridan. Like this, you could have had any other actress play this role and I would have been just, I don't know. It's just like her hair still looks like it's all perfect and too long. And like, I don't know. She just looks like she's trying to be a model still, like a supermodel. And I don't know. She's an Oscar-winning actress who should be able to grunge herself up a little bit for a role as a fire jumper or whatever the fuck this is. It's a writer-director that I really respect, who's made, written 3 or 4 films that I really love, directed one that really stood out as one of the best of the year that it came out. I almost had the high hopes that I could call this kind of like a best picture quality film because it was coming from a filmmaker who has been able to do that for me before. So it was really underwhelming. It felt a little cheap to me, but it worked a little bit too intimately on a small scale, and you could tell that maybe because of the budget, that they had budget constraints, that they were forced into that, and that was the problem with this movie. It had forced plotting, forced exposition, forced into certain filmmaking styles because of probably the budget. It's certainly watchable. It's very serviceable action thriller, I would say. So give it a watch just because there's not much else out there right now. But in the grand scheme of things, I always like to rate things against all the greats of all filmmaking. This will be very forgettable in my opinion. So I'm not able to go too high on this. I'm going to go at a 4.5.
I have all the same issues with you that you have, all the same issues. I did like the look of the movie. I like the location. I like some decisions made by characters, most all bad, and the ones that are good are just too obvious and too easy to accomplish goals and things. But I found a few really good moments of tension, things that had me scared for people's lives. And when you can do that in a movie, you get a couple points from me right there. I love John Barenthal in the movie, which is ironic because a decision made involving the character of John Barenthal is what really drops this movie. My issue with this movie is the ending. It takes it for me from a 7 to a 6. Sorry, that was sloppy, but that's the way I got to my Gulp score, which is a 6. But that was our review, folks, of Those Who Wish You Were Dead.
Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Look for us under Cinema Gulp.
Yes, until next time, don't forget to comment, subscribe, tell your friends, hit that like button, smash that bell, and as always, I'm Ben.
And I'm John, and we are those who drink your cinema.